Hello viewers, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. This is saiful Islam, an assistant teacher of Punjab High School, Raina, and you are most welcome in my saiful English Academy again. My dear learners, I hope that you are very fine by the mercy of Almighty Allah and you watched my previous classes carefully, beautifully, wonderfully. So, my dear viewers, today's class I have been present in front of you with a new advertisement, our new beautiful class with some rules of changing sentence of degree named positive to comparative. Positive to comparative. But, dear viewers, before starting today's class, I want to review my previous classes. Okay, so my dear listeners, listen to me. Oil. In my previous class, I discussed about various kinds of articles of degree. You are told that, my dear learners, what's a degree, classification of degree, and formation rules of degree. So, my dear viewers, with my previous classes, today's class I have been present in front of you with an advertisement, some changing rules of changing sentence, and named and degree of positive degree to comparative degree. So, viewers, knowledge, take a look at the board and try to understand. Thank you very much. But before starting today's class, my dear learners, I want to review another things. My dear learners, of course, you know that what's a positive degree and classification of the positive degree and selection of positive degree, and you're also told what's a comparative degree, selection of a comparative degree. Of course, you know that, my dear learners, and today's class with the review my previous classes. Today's class I have been present here with an advertisement. So, my dear learners, I want to review that, my dear learners. When you're going to convert any kinds of statement or sentence into positive to comparative degree, at first you'll have to learn how to select a positive degree. Of course, that's topics are discussed in my previous class. You are told that, my dear learners, a positive degree, we can positive degree into three ways. We can positive degree into three ways. Number one, starting word, no other, finally ended with the notes of full stop. Number two, starting word, very few, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. And number three was that any kinds of statement mixed with as, or as, oblique, so, or as, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, in these three ways, we can select a positive degree. Of course, you know that, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, try to remain at this moment. Number one, starting with no other and finally ended on the notes of full stop. Number two, starting with very few and finally ended with the notes of full stop. And starting with as the doras, oblique, so doras, and finally ended the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, of course, you know that and you can recollect the things about this. Now, my question to you: what's a comparative degree? You also told that when anything is compared between two persons, two things, etc. This situation, the form of adjective which is used in a statement or sentence is called comparative degree. And you are told, my dear learners, we can select comparative degree into six ways. We can select comparative degree into six ways. Number one, then, mixed with then, finally ended with the notes of full stop. Next, then, any other, finally ended with the notes of full stop. Number three, then, all other, finally ended with the notes of full stop. Number four, then, most other, finally ended with the notes of full stop. Number five was that, then, few other, finally ended with the notes of full stop. And number six was then, many other, many other, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, and the notes, of course, This was the discussion method of my previous class. So, my dear learners, knowledge, take a look at the board and try to understand what about the themes I want to make you understand. Okay, my dear learners, now I am trying to show you these kinds of doors of changing series of positive to negative delay. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Rule one. Rule 1. If any positive degree is started with no other, with no other, you will have to follow the following structure at the time of converting any feed into city. Okay, Medal learners. In rule number one, I am trying to show you the structure. If any positive degree started with no other, you will have to follow the following structure at the time of converting any positive degree into comparative degree. Okay, Medal learners. So take a look at the board and try to understand. Try to understand structure. Structure. Okay, my dear learners, at first you'll have to write down subject from the statement. Subject. One. Try to memorize instructive, my dear learners. At first you'll have to write down subject. Number two, we'll have to write down verb. Verb. Okay, my dear learners. Number three, we'll have to write down CD form of feeding. Number four, we'll have to use than any other. Number five, we'll have to write down person after no other two verb. And finally, we'll have to end it with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. So, my dear learners, what said to you, my dear learners, your child, my dear learners, if any positive degree started with no other, what sir? No other. And you will have to follow the structure. You will have to follow the structure. Structure is what? My dear learners. Number one, you'll have to use the subject from the statement. From the statement. Number two, you'll have to write down verb. Verb. Okay. Number three, comparative form, degree, form of positive degree. Positive degree. Number four, than any other. Number five, no other, from no other to verb. No other to verb. And finally, ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, then I am trying to show you some example to remove the weakness and complexity about this. Okay, my dear learners, so take a look at the board and try to understand. Write down instantly. No other boy in the class is as strong as Abdullah. Okay, dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. But before converting this statement into comparative degree, at first you'll have to be sure this statement is positive degree is or not. Okay, my dear learners, but I want to say that, my dear learners, this sentence of course positive degree. Why? Because this statement is started with no other. And at the time of making understand selection or of positive degree, you are told that if any sentence or statement is started with no other, and finally there will be notes of full stop. Of course, positive degree. So, my dear learners, we may be sure that about this statement, it's a positive degree. And at this moment, we'll have to follow the structure and convert into comparative degree. So, my dear learners, we are trying to solve this problem according to structure. Okay, my dear learners, at first we'll have to write down subject. Okay, my dear learners, so take a look at the board and try to understand. So, what subject? This sentence subject is Abdullah. Okay, my dear learners, so write down Abdullah. Okay, my dear learners, next we'll have to use verb from the statement. Here, verb is. Okay, my dear learners, next we'll have to CD form of feeling. Here, positive degree is strong. Sorry, strong. And comparative degree form of strong, of course, stronger. Strong verb. Of course, you know that, my dear learners. Then we'll have to write down than any other. Next, from no other to verb. The next person, from no other to verb. Here, next person, boy in the class. Boy in the class. Go in the class. Okay, my dear learners, that's enough. So, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. But you'll have to write down then another. From here, you'll have to mind that, my dear learners, there is a great relationship between no other and then another. No other and then another. But no other is used in a positive degree, and then another is used in a comparative degree. That's enough. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Next example, my dear learners, try to follow me and try to note instantly whatever the things I want to make you understand. Example number two, no other country of the world is as beautiful as Bangladesh. Okay, my dear learners, underline no other. And before converting this statement into comparative, we will have to be sure about this statement. This statement is a positive degree, is or not, my dear learners. But according to my mind, this statement is of course a positive degree, because at the time of making you understand about the selection of a positive degree, you are told that, my dear learners, if any sentence or statement is started with no other, and finally ended with the notes of full stop, of course a positive degree. Okay, my dear learners, now we'll have to follow this statement into comparative degree according to the structure. So follow the structure. At first we'll have to write down subject. Here subject Bangladesh. Bangladesh. Okay, my dear learners, then we'll have to write down verb. Here verb is. Next is CD form of Fide. CD form of Fide. Here, Fide form of course beautiful, and CD form of beautiful of course more beautiful. More beautiful. Then we'll have to write down than any others. And from no other to verb, extra person. Here, extra person, country of the world. Country of the world. Country of the world. Okay, middle learners, and touch to underline then another. Okay, middle learners, of that you have understood clearly. Middle learners, already we have finished rule number one. Rule number one. But now I am trying to show you about the various kinds of structures pattern with the rule number two. So take a look at the board and try to understand, my dear learners. Okay, rule number two. And main prerequisite of rule number 2 is that media learners update your honest clearly and try to note instantly with me. Okay, media learners will write down if any sentence is started with very few, you will have to follow the following structure at the time of converting any positive degree into comparative degree. Okay, media learners, stay connected with me and take a look at the board and try to understand. In rule number 2, I am trying to show you the main precondition of rule number 2. My dear learners, you have to mind and try to recollect and try to save in your memory. My dear learners, you were told if any sentence is started with very few, we'll have to follow the following structure at the time of converting any positive degree into comparative degree. So, my dear learners, try to note the structures pattern with me. Okay, my dear learners, according to the structures, you will have to write down at first subject. So, write down subject. Next, you will have to write down verb, but SN form. SN form means singular number. You have to write down singular form of verb from the statement. Then CD form of CD, and then most other oblique, then few other, then portion, extra portion from very few to verbs, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, media learners. So, media learners, take a look at the board and try to understand and try to memorize and try to save these structures in your memory. Okay, media learners. If any positive degree started with very few. What, media learners? Very few. Very few. You'll have to follow the structure. What structures pattern? Number one, you'll have to write down subject from the statement. Subject from the statement. Number two, you'll have to write down singular form of verb. Singular form of verb. Then you'll have to write down CD form of PD form. CD form of PD form from the statement. Then you'll have to either then most other or then few other. Same meanings words. You can use then most other or then few other. No problem. Okay, my dear learners. Then you'll have to write down after portion from very few to verb. Very few to verb, and you'll have to finish the sentence statement into with the notes of full stop. So, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. So, take a look at the board and try to understand whatever the things I want you make you understand. Okay, my dear learners. But at this moment, my dear learners, I'm trying to show you some example with the reference of this rule. Okay, my dear learners, write down. Number one, very few boys of our school are as good as Abdullah. Abdullah. Okay, my dear learners, but before converting this statement into comparative, we will have to be sure this statement is a positive degree or not. But according to my mind, my dear learners, I want to suggest to you this statement is of course a positive degree, because why? because at the time of understands, you are told that, my dear learners, if any sentence is started with a very few and finally there is a full stop, of course, a positive degree. Okay, my dear learners, and I want to suggest you, my dear learners, when you are sure about any kinds of statement of positive degree, especially starting word very few, you'll have to follow the structure. You'll have to follow the structure. So, my dear learners, try to inflow the structures. At first, you'll have to write down subject. Here, subject Abdullah. Okay, write down Abdullah. Abdullah. Then, number two, singular form of verb of the statement. Here, verb. Sorry, are. Are. Here verb are, but singular form of are verb is of course each. Okay, my dear learners. Then city form of feeding. Here PD good, and city form of good. Of course, you know that, my dear learners. Better, better. Then we will have to write down then most other only then few other. Okay, media learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Then extra person from very future verb of the statement. Here extra person, we can see that, media learners, boys of our school, boys of our school. So try to write down with me, boys of our school. Okay, media learners, but you'll have to write down, underline, then most of it, oblique, then further. Of course, it's a notable thing that media learners at the time of converting any kinds of positive degrees, especially starting out very few, you'll have to use one of them, then most of it, oblique, then more few other, no problem. Of that you have understood clearly. Okay, media learners. Now I will try to make you understand another example. So write down another example. Very few countries of the world are as beautiful as Bangladesh. Okay, media learners. Now my question to you: what category of degree is this? Of course, and I'm sure you will be able to reply my questions, because you were told about this at the time of making understand about the selection of your positive degree in my previous class. Sure, thank you very much. I am agree to you, my dear learners. This sentence is a positive degree because this sentence is started with very few and finally ended with the not so full stop. Okay, my dear learners, thank you very much. Now we are trying to convert this statement into positive, into comparative degree. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand and try to finish this statement or converting this statement according to the structure. Then, okay, my dear learners, at first we'll have to write down subject. Here, subject Bangladesh. So, write down Bang. Learn this. Next, number two, we'll have to use the singular form of verb. Here, verb are, and singular form of verb are, of course, each. Okay. Next is city form of feeding. Here, PD, beautiful, and city form of beautiful, of course, more beautiful, more beautiful. Then we'll have to write down then most other oblique then few other. Okay, middle learners. Then we'll have to write down extra portion from very few to verb. Very few to verb. Here, extra portion we can see in this statement, my dear learners, countries of the world. Countries of the world. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Okay, dear learners, already we have finished rule number two. Rule number two, and now I am trying to discuss with you rule number three. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand what about the themes I want to make you understand. We can write down in rule number three that, my dear learners, if any sentence is started, sorry, is mixed, mixed with as oblique so rudder as okay my dear learners then at this sketch in this sketch you will have to follow the following structure at the time of converting any positive degree into comparative degree. Okay my dear learners then my dear learners in rule number 2 I'm trying to show you about the structures pattern if any positive degree is mixed with as oblique as so and if you notice any kinds of statement or sentence in the exam hall and you have to convert such kinds of statement into comparative degree you'll have to follow the structures. So okay my dear learners, I hope that you have understood clearly. Now you'll have to follow the structure. Okay my dear learners, at this sketch in this sketch my dear learners, I am using a shortlist form structure. Okay my dear learners, at first you'll have to write down last subject. So try to note instantly my dear learners, at first you'll have to write down last subject, then we'll have to write down verb of this statement from this statement. Next we'll have to n apostrophe and apostrophe if the statement is a positive affirmative form, but if negative form in apostrophe is not needed to us. Dear learners, okay my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. Then number 3, cd form of pd form. Okay my dear learners, then we'll have to use then next we'll have to use first subject from the statement, and finally we will have to finish with the notes of full stop. Okay my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. Okay my dear learners, or the sums and substance themes of this tool my dear learners, please listen to me oil and try to understand. You are told my dear learners, if any positive degree is next to it as dodoras or like so dodoras, and you'll have to convert the such kinds of statement of positive degree into comparative degree. You'll have to follow the structure, sir. What structure pattern my dear learners? Number one structures pattern number one, you'll have to use the last subject from the statement. Okay my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Next number 2, verb from the statement, verb from the statement. And number 3, cd form of pd form. Then we'll have to use then, and then we'll have to use gradually first subject, and finally India to the notes of full stop. Of course, you have understood clearly, my dear learners. But I want to suggest to you, my dear learners, these three kinds of structure are rule number 1, rule number 2, and rule number 3. Structure of rule number 1, rule number 2, and rule number 3. You should memorize at the time of converting any kind of statement of positive degree into comparative degree. Okay, my dear learners. So you should memorize instantly with me. Okay my dear learners, now I am trying to make you understand with some examples. So take a look at the board and try to understand. Okay, number 1, example of number 1, Abdullah is as tall as Rohim. Okay, my dear learners, at first, before converting this statement into comparative degree, you'll have to sure about this statement. This statement is a positive degree or not. But ensure, my dear learners, because this statement is mixed with as dot as. So, my dear learners, but I want to suggest you to when you'll be sure about this statement, such kinds of such categories of the positive degree, and at the time of converting any comparative degree, you'll have to follow the structure, sir. Number 1, Number one, we'll have to use the last subject from the statement. So take a look at the board and try to think deeply. What's last subject? According to my mind, and this is for this last subject to Rohim. So write down, my dear learners, last subject Rohim. Okay, my dear learners. Then we'll have to verb. Here verb is with in apostrophe. Then city form of fide. Here PD toll, and city form of toll is of course taller according to the forming rules of degree. Okay, my dear learners, of course, which was discussed in my previous classes about the formation rules of degree. Okay, my dear learners, then we'll have to use then when first subject. Here first subject Abdullah, and finally ended with the notes of full stop and underline. Then okay, middle learners, of that you have understood clearly. Of course, I may give you another example. So try to note instructly. Bangladesh each earned as sorry big as India. Okay, my dear learners, but I want to suggest to you, my dear learners, before converting this statement into comparative degree, you will have to follow the structure. Okay, my dear learners, according to my mind, you will be able to reply my questions if I ask you what's category of degree is this. Of course, but I want to add something here, my dear learners. At the time of make you understand about the selection way of positive degree, we are told that, my dear learners, if any degree is mixed with s dot dot s or so dot dot s, and finally ended with the notes of full stop, such categories of degree, my dear learners, we can call a positive degree. And when we will be sure about any kinds of positive degrees, especially these categories of statement or sentence, we'll have to follow the structure, sir. Okay, my dear learners. So try to finish the statement or try to convert the statement into comparative degree according to the structure. So, my dear learners, what structures pattern one last subject? Okay, my dear learners, take a look at the board, look at the statement or sentence, and try to think deeply. What's last subject? Okay, my dear learners, here last subject India. Okay, my dear learners, India. Number two, verb. Here verb each. Okay, my dear learners, at the time of make you understand about the structures pattern of this rule, you are told that, my dear learners, if the statement is an affirmative sentence, at this case only in this case or at this case you'll have to use an apostrophe. Others not. But if the sentence is a negative sentence, you'll have to delete an apostrophe. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. So, my dear learners, next comparative degree or positive degree form. Here, positive degree is big. Here, positive degree is big, and city form of big. Of course, you know that which was discussed in my previous class. Bigger. Then we'll have to use then and first subject. Here, first subject Bangladesh. Okay, my dear learners, and try to note and try to memorize in your memory. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, today's class, I am trying to make you understand about the various kinds of rules of changing sentence of degree, especially from positive degree and to comparative degree. But before finishing my today's class, my dear learners, I want to add shortly some verb. Okay, my dear learners, so listen to me well and try to understand and try to note the important notes in your cutters. My dear learners, in rule number one, you are told to my dear learners that rule number one, you can memorize or remember rule number one in this way shortly, my dear learners. No other equal to than any other. Okay, my dear learners, from rule number one, you will have to mind in this way shortly. If any positive degree is started in other, and we'll have to use then any other at the time of converting such kinds of positive degree into comparative degree. Okay, my dear learners, so we should mind or we should memorize that no other equal to than any other. Okay, my dear learners, and from rule number two. Rule number two. From rule number two, you will have to memorize or you have to will remember that the shortly form very few equal to than most other oblique than few other than few other. Okay, my dear learners, from rule number two, you may memorize or you may remember the shortly form very few equal to than most other oblique than few other, then most other oblique than few other. And rule number three, rule number three, from rule number three, you can remember that, my dear learners, as dot as oblique so dot as equal to then. Okay, my dear learners, but before starting today's class, I want to try to show the relationship between various kinds of topics, especially positive degree to comparative degree. My dear learners, you can or you may mind in this way, if any positive degree is started no other, you will have to use then another at the time of converting such kinds of positive degree into comparative degree. Okay, my dear learners, but you will have to remember another thing that no other is used at first beginning of the statement, but then any other is used middle of the statement. Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. Number two, very few is used in a positive degree, and if any positive degree is stuck at the very few, you'll have to use then most of the oblique than any other middle of the statement. Okay, my dear learners, it's a notable thing that, my dear learners, very few is used starting word, but then in other oblique than most of the is used middle of the statement. Okay, this difference you'll have to mind, my dear learners, and from rule number three, you'll have to mind that as dot as oblique so dot as is used in a positive degree, and then is used in a comparative degree. But you'll have to mind that there is a difference between these two items, because, my dear learners, as the as oblique so as is used in a positive degree, but this categories of connector is used middle of the statement. Of course, then is used middle of the statement. Okay, my dear learners, of that, my dear learners, today's class you have understood clearly, my dear learners. In this today's class, my dear learners, as I know, as far as possible, I know various kinds of rules of changing sentence of degree from positive to comparative degree. I am trying to share you, my dear learners. But before finishing my class, I want to add something to you. I want to share my information to you, my dear learners. Of course, you know that I'm a new teacher in a YouTube channel, and at the time of teaching or making a video class, most of the time, middle of the classes, I am trying to use English conversation. So, my dear learners, if you notice or follow the any mistakes or error in the middle of my class, please excuse me for this reason. At first, I apologize to you, my dear learners, and pray to Allah, Almighty Allah, for me, so that I can serve you in this way through my video classes. So, my dear learners, no more today come to second with a new class. Next class, in my next class, I will try to make you understand about the roles positive to superlative. Okay, my dear learners, in my next episode, in my next class, I will inshallah I will try to make you understand various kinds of rule of changing sentence, especially positive degree to superlative degree, positive degree to superlative degree. So, my dear learners, so my dear viewers, no more today, come to see again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.